welcome one and all to the third edition, the third episode of this year's virtual Puro Sabor festival. And we're in for another treat. We're in for another super exciting special guest, and we'll be talking about where it all starts, because it all starts in the rich soil of Nicaragua. We'll be talking about the fields, we'll be talking about seedlings, we'll be talking about pre-industry, all the magic that happens in the curing barns. We'll take a little sneak, a preview into the pilones whilst they're fermenting with this episode. And who better to talk about this topic than our dear friend and brother, the one and only Nestor Andres Plasencia. Welcome to the show, Nestor.
Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be together with you today. I will love that this meeting will be face-to-face in the beautiful Esteli. But you know, this is what we have, and but technology, and thank you, Reinhard, to make it possible so we still have a connection in this crazy times that we have. And what better to spend our time with great cigars and with great company. So for me, it's really an honor, the invitation, and to talk about the thing that I'm passionate about, tobacco growing. We always said it's where the magic starts. You cannot make great cigars without starting with great tobacco. And in order to start with great tobacco, you need to be on the fields. You have to get your hands dirty with the beautiful soil of Nicaragua, and you have to be together with that amazing group of people that we have here in Nicaragua. It's amazing, the talented people that work together with us, and I'm talking about all the Nicaraguan producers. We're blessed, and I'm blessed. I'm a Esteliano, so I was born in Esteli, and for me, seeing the name of my city, how is synonymous of quality around the world, it's unbelievable, the feeling that I have. So thank you guys for spending the time. I'm here to answer your questions. I try to know the answer because we're still learning. I'm learning every day, man. Every day. It's challenging. It's fun. It's a lot of work, but I feel that I'm not working because I'm loving what I'm doing, and especially that I have my father and my side, and my sister, my brothers. So it's unbelievable. Thank you for enjoying Nicaraguan cigars. Thank you for enjoying Plasencia cigars, and let's keep enjoying life with the magnificent works of art.
Nestor, I would also love to welcome our dear host for tonight, Rod from the Leaf Masters over in Dubai. Rod, thank you so much for being here with us yet again. Welcome, and please take it away and say a few words to all our guests.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. This is so exciting, seeing everybody, a lot of familiar faces, and the kind of interest and the kind of excitement about the show. Nestor, an absolute pleasure, privilege, and honor to be in this session with you. Reinhard, once again, light 'em up, rocks, and we thank you for this opportunity to make this happen. Tonight's going to be special, and I'm excited to be part of it. So let's start, shall we?
Absolutely. And before we actually start with the questions, how about we give all our viewers a little bit of a taste for Nicaragua with a short video that we have prepared for you. We'll jump right in and dig a little bit into the heart and soul of Nicaragua.
Since 1865, the Plasencia family has perfected the art of tobacco. It all began in Cuba, and today the tradition continues in the sun-kissed soils of Central America. Here begins the journey from our soul to your most ambitious senses.
Nestor, what comes to your mind when you look at those beautiful pictures, and what feelings does it still evoke when you fly over the fields, when you walk by all the tobacco plants, when you have that rich soil in your hand? What's those feelings like? What does it bring to you?
I love it every time that I'm seeing it. I love it, and every time that I go to the farm, I love it. And this we want to have like the journey from the seeds to the final process. It's a journey of care. It's a journey of understand nature, understand the biological cycle of tobacco, having your people passionate about to do the right work, to harvest the leaves when it's ready, to put it in the curing barn, and then all the process since you put the seeds on the ground by the time that we're going to enjoy the tobacco. So when you start thinking about it, when you start, you sometimes you take it for granted because you see it every day and this and that. But when you put your thoughts and your senses, it's an unbelievable process. It's amazing how we can start for that tiny seed that in 1 gram you can have 10,000 seeds. Put into the field, put into the greenhouses, grow it like this more or less in 50 days, transplant it into the field, and another 50 days is gonna be a plant like this. The amount of energy that those plant has, the change that plant has, the flavor that it gets from the fields where that plant was planted, it's unbelievable. And all the process on the curing barn and the fermentation process, and then goes to those artists that transform those leaves into works of art. It's unbelievable. We can be talking about all the processes and all the things that have to be involved in achieve that. And every day and every year it's a new lesson. We have to be with our eye opens and our ear opens, and to understand and be willing and humble to learn and to understand tobacco. And as my dad says, we have to learn how to speak tobacco language. And that is something that just being on the fields, being with the tobacco, is something you can accomplish. And we still have a lot to learn, my friend. This is unbelievable. And I love it. I don't want to feel that we know a lot of that. I think that we're in the beginning stages of learning about tobacco.
Nestor, it's a bit like with the chef, right? You can be the best chef in the world, and obviously you are one of the elite Michelin-starred group of chefs in the tobacco industry. But if you are working with ingredients that are not of the highest quality, the results of your dishes will always only be mediocre at best.
Yes.
Why, in your opinion, is Nicaragua such an exceptional terroir to grow and refine tobacco? Why is it such an exceptional terroir to produce some of the finest ingredients for you to cook with?
This is something that I think a lot and to see, but it all goes down that we're blessed. We're blessed to have the kind of soils that we have. They have the diversity that we have within one country, because you have tobacco from Esteli, you have tobacco from Jalapa, you have tobacco from Condega, you have tobacco from Ometepe, you have a different small areas that are popping up. And that gives you an amazing way of blending it and different taste. But you have the terroir, you have the microclimate that is surrounded those tobaccos, knowing when the tobacco have to be put into the ground. And my special sauce, I think, in talking about Nicaragua, is the know-how. Is the know-how to know when tobacco have to be harvested, when you have to irrigate that tobacco. So it's the human touch, because we can have the best soil, we can have the best variety, but if we don't have people with passion, with knowledge of what they're doing, again, we cannot have an amazing product that the Nicaraguan tobacco has. and you have to work it because we're blessed, but you have to take care of your blessings as well. Another thing that is crucial, in our opinion, is working with your soil. Your soil is a living organism that needs to be fed, that needs to be fed. How we feed our soil with compost, with earthworms, vermicompost, organic material that we add, different crops rotation. Because you can, if you just started harvested without giving something back to your soil, you're gonna end in a very bad situation. So Nicaragua has everything to succeed, and the world has known for many years. And again, it's still the beginning. There's an amazing people working in this country, and there's still a lot of things to learn and a lot of things to implement, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. But it started with your soil. Your soil is so rich and has to be care of. And it's something that I'm thinking about and that I'm learning a lot about the microorganisms that live on the soil, how you can take care of them, how you can feed them, about organic agriculture, about regenerative agriculture, and that kind of stuff that is so important nowadays.
So before we continue, I would just like to let all of you know for a second, as always, everybody who's following our YouTube live stream, if you have any questions, please put them into the comments. We're very happy to forward your questions to Nestor Andres during the show. Also, for all of you here at the Zoom lounge, please put your questions into the chat box. We'd also love to hear where you're tuning in from. Let us know. Wherever you are around the world, we have people from all over, from the United States, from Brazil, from Asia, the Middle East, and from Europe. But let us know, put it into the chat box, and we're very much looking forward to all your questions. Speaking of, we have an exceptional surprise for all of you and for all the people who are following the Light 'em Up Puro Sabor 21 virtual action. One will be, there is 3 boxes of exceptional cigars from the Chamber of Tobacco in Nicaragua, an assortiment of 20 different cigars from the members of the chamber, and these boxes are waiting for you to be shipped to be enjoyed, to be savored. We will raffle these during the continued episode structure of this year's Puro Sabor. And there'll be a grand prize at the very end of the festival, but I'll tell you about that a bit later on during the show. So stay tuned, not only for this episode, but for the entire sequence of all our virtual shows, because this is a bomber you certainly do not want to miss. Right, with that out of the mind, technicalities and organizational stuff out of the way, right, my brother, over to you.
I'm loving the analogy that Reinhard's using about a Michelin star chef. Obviously, through generations being in the business, and through Nicaragua as back as 1964 being in the cigar industry. And at the risk of sounding like I'm repeating the question, but I want to dig a bit more into this. I want to talk about the uniqueness of the ingredients of Nicaragua. You've spoken about a lot of them, and you've even been so kind as to mention to us your secret sauce and what else that you would like to do this. But if we are to start with Nicaragua's unique because of, and we think of 5 main reasons why you think the industry in general in Nicaragua is very unique, what would they be? And if you can think of more, we'd love to hear it.
The 5 reasons why Nicaraguan cigars have been so popular right now?
Popular and unique in terms of the quality, and what makes you so proud of it in terms of
like I said, is the number one that we're blessed with the terroir that we have, with the microclimate that we have, and especially the people, with the knowledge of tobacco, with the passion of trying to grow an amazing tobacco. We have the blessing also that a lot of people have came to invest in Nicaragua, and investment for the long term in order to invest in the soil, invest on the people, invest in everything. The knowledge about the variety, which kind of variety we're gonna grow, because you can have a different variety that goes well in SLE and maybe don't goes well in Jalapa, for example. People who came with a lot of knowledge, with different approach. Another great success story of Nicaragua is a variety of cigars of different tastes, of different manufacturers. I love that more people come here and invest, that have ideas that we will never came up with the innovation that they came, like Jonathan Drew with acid, just to put an example, it's very untraditional, different regions where they grow in tobacco, different ways that they grow in tobacco, different forms, different shapes in the vitolas, presentation, you know, the creativity and presentations into getting different market shares. It's unbelievable. So that seed, it's an endless kind of ingredients that makes Nicaraguan cigars so popular. And I think it will come. That's why I don't like too much legislation or regulations, because that will be getting harder the entry point for new people to come in. And when you have people with new ideas, everybody benefits from it, you know, and that's what I love. And the camaraderie that we have in the tobacco chamber, you know, we get along very well. We don't see each other as competitors. We see each other as colleagues that are working for one big goal, that is putting Nicaragua in the centerpiece of quality around the world. I think, and we are making that happen. But I think that we just are in the early stages. And these are, you know, the some of the ingredients why Nicaraguan are getting so much knowledge, so much press, and the people are loving our cigars mainly for all the manufacturers and the tobacco growers.
New tobacco varieties all across the world seem to have really put a lasting fingerprint onto the cigar industry. Also, things come and go in trends. At some point, everybody's crazy about Connecticut broadleaf. Then there's an uptake in Mexican San Andres, original Corojo, Sumatra seed, when it comes from Cameroon, for example, in particular. What, in your opinion, Nestor, is the perfect match when it comes to the Nicaraguan soil and the tobacco varietals out there?
Well, I'm in love with Havana seed tobacco. That for me, that's the most sweeter tobacco. That's the one that have the aroma. That's the one that I like to work with when we make a Plasencia cigar blend. And when I'm talking about Havana seed, there's different sorts of different hybrids where we can work within that variety. We have experiment with the hybrids that come Havana with Connecticut in order to have a tobacco thinner in order to have like lighter colors on the wrapper. Working in seed development, it's an unbelievable work as well. You have the best of two pure strength of tobacco, trying to put it together. Then that you wishing for the best characteristic of this to the best characteristic of that going into the new hybrid, into the new seed. Sometimes you make it, sometimes you don't make it. We haven't made it a lot of times, and we have made it in a lot of time also. But it's a try and error work. It's a try and error work. And Havana Tutaxin, for example, the original when it comes, it wasn't tasting that well because we didn't know how to work with that variety. So we have to do an experiment and make our selection of that seeds growing in our soil in different locations in order to that seed to adapt to our weather conditions, to our soil conditions. And now it's one of the a very good variety that is working out. Criollo 98. We worked with Criollo 98 that was original developed in Cuba, but we crossbreeded with a different variety that we have over here. And now we have a criollo mejorado that we call it. And in our point of view, the Habano seed is the one that are adapted the better in this seed. We're growing with some Connecticut seeds that is doing very well, especially here in Esteli. Actually, I was riding horses through the fields last Saturday. I saw the fields, and it looks amazing. With the horse, we have the cheesecloth, so I get into the tobacco, so I go to every corner of the tobacco. And then Saturday night, we have a big rain on April the 10th, something that is not very common. Mm-hmm. So I said, wow, the tobacco, it's like 70 days old, so which is very, very tall, is touching the cheesecloth. And I was so worried that the rain, because it rained with wind, can go and take some of the leaves down. But I went at 6:30 in the morning yesterday. I went to the farm to see if everything was fine. Thank God, no damage. But we have some friends that have some how do you call it, granizo, when it rains with the big blocks of ice. I don't know how to say that in English. That lost some fields because of that last Saturday. Imagine the challenges that we have. And it's not supposed to be raining at this time of the year. But coming back to variety, I think Habano, it's on my heart, and I think it grows very well when you adapt it to your conditions.
Excellent. For me, the idea of having hail in Nicaragua is in April is just an amazing thing. But two questions I have in mind, and I want to get. I was very interested and intrigued when you started talking about the hybrids. Let's start by this. Can you explain to us the concept of hybrid, and why do we actually need it? Also, are we heading in the right direction? And what do you believe is the perfect choice, selection, or result that we're coming with as far as Nicaragua is concerned?
For sure. We have to work with, let's make a definition of a hybrid. Hybrid is a combination of two pure strain of tobacco or any other crops. So you have one tobacco that you like for the flavor, for the shade, for the shape of the tobacco leaves, for yield, and you have another variety that is very well for resistant to blue mold or black shank or any other disease that we have. The hybridization, it's so important because with this change weather, with these new diseases that are coming, we have to be ahead of the game in order to have tobaccos resistant to new disease, to the current disease, or to new disease that will come. So we always experimented in order to have a different hybrids. We are working so many years ago how we can get the 2000 with the Habano PR, for example, putting together and then have a different taste, because you always the final result is to have a resistant to disease tobacco, but with an amazing organoleptic characteristics. You can have a lot of resistance, but at the end, if that tobacco doesn't taste good, we just learned in 10 years that strain, that new hybrid didn't work. And that you have to start with the process again, because that is a 7 to 8 years process in order to come with a new variety of tobacco. It's a very long process. It requires knowing your tobacco, your seeds very well, and trying to get the best characteristics of both, because when you mix them, you have 50% of one and 50% to the other one. So there's a lot of segregation, we call it, in genetics. And then you have to see the ones that you like, take that seed out of those plants and replant that seed again. You're going to have a lot of segregation as well until every year it's less and less and less segregation until you get a one stable new hybrid. And that's the way that we're working. We don't work and we'll never will be working with a modified genetic hybrids. It's just natural hybridization and do it as a nature does for billions of years, getting and pollination by hand or by insects or whatever. But we do it when we do it, we get the masculine part of one plant and put it into the feminine part of the other plant. And it's an amazing process, and we invest a lot of time and resources in order to be always ahead of the game in working on that. We try, let me tell you a not very successful story. We were working and the broadleaf is getting a lot of popularity right now. So we add a broadleaf seed with an Havana seed. The first generation, we planted under the field with a very infestation of the black shank, and 100% of the plants die. 100% of the plants. So wow. When we saw that, and I have a regular amount of production at the same time and in the same field, but we did like 5 rows of that test, and that 100% of the plants pass. So we have to start with the process since the beginning. So we have to look for another variety that will give you the resistance to the broadleaf in order to have a hybrid of broadleaf and Havana, because there's something that we're thinking in the future.
And how's the success been so far as you're concerned?
The success is when we have an established variety with the resistance and with the organoleptic characteristics, very intrinsic. Because as I said, you can have resistance, but it's not going to taste well. So okay. Forget it, And we have done a lot of those as well. But the main thing is the taste, because it's where the people are going to taste. Those leaves are the one that is going to be the sauce. Like a chef, a very good or ingredient for making an amazing blend. And then start all the process for try and error, How can I blend this with this other one? Which proportion I have to do, in which region I have to grow that tobacco. And that is completely a different conversation, but it's, it requires a lot of time, patience, and working with people who really know what they're doing.
Excellent.
Nestor, a dear friend, Alex from Brazil, has a question for you.
Nestor, okay. I would like to know, as we're talking about the hybrids, that you said that in the end, you were looking for the flavor profile as well. So when you try a different hybrid and the flavor profile doesn't reach the standards that you're looking for, what do you do with the production? Do you sell to other people? What do you do?
No, we remember that when we make this kind of tests, it's in very small scale. It's just to have enough tobacco in order to keep with the next generation. So that tobacco will never get into the market. That is a very small fields that we have in order to make those tests. So when you have it, you grow like 30 rows of tobacco in order to that. When you have success is when you have in a commercial plantation. We will never plant that until it's taste, until it's test for the final test, which is when we make the cigar.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. Good question.
Excellent. I want to talk about the source of life and things. The soil, obviously, the weather, the wind, the environment in general. But from the days where I was in Nicaragua, there's something interesting about the water in the fields, the way it's delivered to the fields, and the quality of the water of the fields. Can you shed some light on that? I think that's a detail that a lot of people would love to hear about.
That is great. Water is the source of living. One thing that I want you guys to understand. Humidity is the most important thing since you put the little seeds on the trays until you enjoy the cigar. So taking care of the humidity, it's so important, because if you over irrigated your seeds, it's gonna get rotten. If you over irrigated the fields, the water, the tobacco will lose the flavor. If you get too less, you know, the tobacco wouldn't have the growth that it requires. When you hang up the tobacco in the fields, the leaves are 85% humidity, and we finish about 18% humidity. So not taking rid of that humidity is so important. Humidity in the fermentation process, humidity in the aging process, humidity in the manufacturing process, and humidity in the humidor. So there's humidity is very important. So the quality of your water, it's so important as well. So we work with, especially in Esteli, we work mostly with wells and drip irrigation system, where we can take care of the water, and we can use a very efficient use of the water, which is very scarce right now. With this raining patterns that is not even, so we have to take care of your water. And another way that you can take care of your water is adding organic material to your soil. We have a vermicompost facility that we produce earthworm humus. Some of you that have visited us have seen it. And that for me, it's black gold that you add to the soil. And what I'm talking about that, because every percentage of organic material in your soil is going to retain more humidity for your tobacco, and it's going to release it in a uniform way. So taking care of your water, taking care of humidity, it's so important. And the quality of the water that are growing your tobacco, it's so important as well. I'm making a test, and I'm not a test. I'm growing tobacco in a new region that we're doing it for many years ago, and the water source is for the mountain. Oh, wow. So it's so clean. It's the cleanest water that you can have. And when the time is ready, ladies and gentlemen, I will be releasing that cigar that I'm thinking of. We're always trying new stuff, and I'm waiting for the right moment to release it. So, but that is you made me talk about it with your question.
I'm so glad. I mean, it goes with the show. We expect you to release up to 5 confidential pieces of information in every session. So 1 down, 4 to go.
Nestor, in the meantime, allow me to share a few pictures that I have assembled into a short presentation. And maybe whilst we're going through them, you would like to give us a little bit of your perspective on those individual steps. I believe there's a picture of irrigation in there as well. So maybe walk us through that. And then Val Bradshaw, who's here with us, also has a question regarding the irrigation system. I'll just start my screen share in the meantime, and you can walk us through the process.
That's the germinators. Because of the size of the tobacco seed, we mix the seed with ashes, and we put it into the tray in order to have that uneven, difference in every little plant. Those plants, look at that have about 14 days of being put into the field, more or less 7 days of being germinated. Those little things are going to go by hand to every little cell of the trays, as you can see it over there. This is the first selection is the seeds. The size of the seeds, the weight of the seeds are the ones that are going to the germinators. And then the most strong seeds that germinated the best and have the best growth rate are the ones that are going to go into the final tray. That, when I'm talking about, you see the humidity, it's a very even humidity that we put into the greenhouses, and tobacco in the greenhouses are getting everything that they need. They need water, we give water. They need temperature, the plastic that I surrounded, give the temperature. They need nutrients, we give the nutrients. So it's very comfortable way to grow. And when you grow comfortable, my friends, you don't know how life it is, how hard the life it is. So we have to give stress to those little plants in order to they want to survive. We come, I don't know if we send that picture, we come with a mowing machine. And we came, I'm very comfortable, air conditioner, everything, I eat when I want, everything, life is great. And I came and boom, I cut the leaves by half in order to say, hey, wait a minute, I need to be strong, I need to survive. Otherwise, they gonna get rid of me. And at the same time, I'm getting a very uniform seedlings that are getting ready to go to the field. When we mowing, I'm creating an atmosphere to develop the root system. Those roots are the one when they go to the final field with sun, with not the right conditions, are the one that are gonna make successful, and they're gonna survive for the harsh conditions that they have outside. So you have to work in a balance. You have to give everything, and then you have to boom. Life is not easy. You have to work hard in order to survive. And these are the things that we're doing in the greenhouses. And it's very, very important because it's as my father always said, it's the little big details. When you start with a great seed and with a great seedling, and the soil, when the soil is ready, you have 50% of the battle already won. But when you start with the seeds, where that's not uneven, that have some problems and this and that, then we can have some problems. That is a transplanted sun-grown tobacco that is being transplanted, and this we do it in the traditional way that we irrigate the day that we're transplanted, because it's when it requires a lot of humidity those days.
It must be an incredibly labor-intense process when you see everything is done by hand there. What could be the potential number that we're looking at for those people to put all these beautiful little plants into the fields? Then how many could you actually do a day?
They make because we have people that have some experience. They make like a 50 trays a day, and every tray have like a 212 different cells. So they've been working and they come with us to work every day. But at the beginning, the learning process is very tough. But the way that they take that little plant and put into the tray, and that little by little taking care of the height of those leaves or those little plants. And that little plant, you see the size? In 50 days, ladies and gentlemen, is gonna be like this. It's wow. Gonna be amazing. So if you are starting watching of the tobacco, you can almost see growth. It's unbelievable how fast that tobacco plant grows. It's unbelievable. I'm calling the marvelous tobacco plant. And every leaf in that stem is going to give you different flavor profile, different strength. Which other crop, and if one of you can tell me, change depends on your position of the leaves on the stem. I don't know any other crop. When you harvest wine, grapes you put it together. When you harvest bananas, tomatoes, you don't separate that for different strength or different flavors. The only thing that I'm seeing is in the premium tobacco for premium cigars. It's completely different when you grow tobacco for cigarette or even the broad leaf. You harvest the complete leaf, but we do it by hand over here. But mostly in other places, they harvest the complete plant at once. But this is the one. These are the little things that make tobacco so special.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Look the quality of those leaves. Look that we harvest the tobacco in baskets. Other people harvest the tobacco in a bigger containers. But doing that, we are making sure that the leaf are not broken when you harvest it. Tobacco, when it grows, the leaves are one next to another. So you have to walk very gentle in order to not break the leaves. because when you break the leaves, the quality is not going to be the same, especially when it's for wrapper. And as my dad always said, you know, we save those leaves for blue mold. We save those leaves for black shank. We save it for hail. We save it for everything that can happen on the fields. Now it's up to us. The human touch is even more important, how we can still save it until the tobacco is on the cigar. So it's very, very, a lot of little details. We have beautiful girls in Nestle, as you can tell, you know, that they're very, very happy working. And what they're doing when the tobacco is ready, and the tobacco is ready, they will tell you with the different signs that I have on the fields, on the leaves, I mean. And it's different when the tobacco is on jalapa or in Esteli. Esteli, the maturity of the leaves takes about 5-6 days later than in jalapa because of the altitude. So you have to take in consideration also where you're growing the tobacco. And it's very hard to plan because, you know, tobacco will tell. That rain that we have last Saturday, that will give you also more days that tobacco needs to be on the field before we harvest it, because we call it se mete a nuevo. It's give you like a joiners to get those rain. So knowing when harvest is one of the secret know-hows. And another important point, let me tell you, especially in Havana seed tobacco that is going to go for filler or wrapper, is el desbotone. When you take that bud out of the tobacco plant. For me, that's one of the most important labors that you can do on the field. Taking that little bolt, that is gonna be the energy that the plant needs to make the seeds, in order to every living creatures want to perpetuate their species. So all the energy is going to go to those flowers and then go to those seeds. So knowing when you're going to do that is going to make a big influence in the taste of your tobacco.
Nestor,
So
the process is also sometimes described as desflorado. Is that correct?
Desflorado, we call it deshijado. When you took the desflorado, you're taking the flower off. I don't want to see any flower in the tobacco field. When you see a flower, that is already energy that goes into the flower. So I want to see the little bud before it gets into the flower. But it's the same thing. So we call it desije. So it says desbotone. I mean, it's a little bud that we have to take it. Sometimes, you know, because you have to do a little bit of the flower emerge, so you have to take it out. And then, because the plants want to perpetuate their species, is gonna go and take the suckers. And that's a very important also. Take the suckers at the right time. So it's a tiny here, little details, and depends on the fertility that plant has, the flavor that is gonna get. I'm a big fan of organic agriculture, of organic fertilizer, because I believe it's gonna give you a nutrient-dense tobacco that is gonna give you a better flavor profile.
I just wanted to talk to that about that to you in more detail, because obviously you are one of the leading figures in the entire organic tobacco growing process, and you even made a specific cigar line that was called the Organica back in the days. What are the most pressing challenges when you actually do that, and do you think that this will be a thing in the future that can really become the state of the art in the industry, or is it a mere fantasy?
Well, I hope came into a bigger thing. It's hard. It's not easy. Growing tobacco is hard by itself, and growing it organically is even harder. That's a process that is a try and error. And I remember when I graduated for agriculture school, I talked to my dad, and I have this beautiful idea that I want to grow organic tobacco. And he said, "What? Are you crazy? You know, this is gonna be very hard." And I said, "You know, I believe in this, so let me try it." And he's always open-minded to, when I work hard in something, you know, he let me work in those days in a new innovation and that kind of stuff. But we did try and error, and the first trial that we did, tobacco didn't grow with the same rate of traditional or conventional tobacco, because the fast that tobacco grows is very violent growth. So one of the main challenge, I came to the fields and I see it's not growing. So my dad told, I told you, it's gonna be tough. I said, we will try it. We're gonna go and try it in this part of the field and try with a different kind of fertilization. We tried with chicken manure, it didn't work. We tried with different compost from different crop residues, didn't work. And then, with try and error, we work with the vermicompost. That's why I love the earthworms, and the way that they process the fertilization through their intestines. The process makes our organic fertilizer that is ready to being absorbed for the plant. So that's the benefits that we have. So we make a lot of mistakes, a lot of learning, but I don't call it mistakes. I call it learning phases, or how you call it. And then the blue mold, the another huge challenge that we have. Blue mold is a disease that in the 80s we lost crops year after year about blue mold, because with the high humidity, cold temperature is the one that's going to spread like this. And we cannot spread any chemical on that. So that was another big challenge. The way that I'm seeing is when it's like ourselves, if we ate the right stuff, if we we have high density nutrients food, we have better ways to fight diseases. So it's the same thing. Tobacco plant is very well nutrient with nutrients that are already on the fields with the microorganisms. I'm gonna go and make up susceptible the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and micro elements as well, so you can fight pests in a better way. So I think it's gonna get more and more important. I think that's all organic goes to Plasencia Reserva Organica in the past. Now it's Plasencia Reserva Original, but I'm using organic tobacco in every other blend that we make, because that's tobacco that is just for us. That's tobacco that is just going to the Plasencia line. So I'm a big believer of that. It's not easy. You have to work hard. You have to understand the biology of the soil, biology of the microorganism, biology of the tobacco plant. So it's a very deep knowledge into understanding, and organic agriculture worldwide is growing twice faster than the regular agriculture. So I think it's gonna get more and more important. It's not easy. I like the way that we can still have some chemicals in some other tobaccos, because it's gonna be still a lot of years in order to get it and to have a huge amount. But we're growing every year. And last 2 years ago was the first year that we have the same yield of organic agriculture to regular tobacco. Still more expensive to do it, but I know with the advantage in organic agriculture is going to get more and more popular, and it's going to give you a lot of knowledge. So there's a lot of things that I have to that I still learn, and my team and the people who are really into this.
Do you think organic, I mean, a lot of people talk about a lot of produce that organic is the future. Do you think, as far as tobacco is concerned, organic is the future, or is part of the future?
I think it's part of the future. I think when you have a blue mold problem or black shine, it's hard to fight it with organic matters, with organic ways to do it. I think it's gonna go into that place that we have to use, and I think regulation is gonna go that way in terms of chemical content of your tobacco. And I think we have a lot of years ahead of the game in order to produce it. And a lot of things that we have learned in the organic growing, we extrapolated into conventional tobacco growing. For example, adding organic material to your soil, using like crops rotation. We're growing beans in order to get the nitrogen that is in the atmosphere, putting back into the soil. And now I'm making tests of a very different mix of plants that is going to absorb through the photosynthesis
Mm-hmm.
to put carbon on the fields, and that carbon will feed the microorganism, and that will add different kind of nutrients to the tobacco. So it's a fascinating process. I'm learning big time. I spend a lot of my time learning about this process, and I'm doing number one because I think it's so important for the sustainability of the farming, and because of the taste. I'm in love with that taste. It's so clean and opens it up. Is gentle, and I really love it. And I have a grade of people that is working with me that are truly understand it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I remember the first time I smoked one of the organic cigars, and it was like a whole new experience. I loved it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And the number one cigar of the year, Alma Fuerte, also have some organic tobacco on the blend as well. So it's unbelievable, and people are liking it. So I'm very happy.
That's great. That's great. One of the questions we're getting from a lot of our listeners and a lot of our followers is climate change. There's a lot of climate change that's happening. Ironically enough, climate change, the COVID in general, although I don't like referring to it, but COVID in general, because of less airplanes in the sky and and less cars being driven and has actually impacted the way, and I feel it here in Dubai, and how the temperature has changed and moved very early on. What's your take on climate change, and how do you believe this is a challenge that will either be positive or negative, and how are we going to address it? I know it sounds like a Pandora's box, not a Pandora's box, what do they call it? A crystal ball kind of a question, but from your personal experience, how do you believe this is going to be tackled?
Very good question. And I think we have to start working, and we already did. It's going to be a challenge in every phases of the world. And I don't, the data that I said, some people are so pessimistic, other people are very optimistic, but I'm seeing the changes already. We have rain 2 days ago. It's something that you don't have it very much. We have 2 hurricanes, one after Eta and Iota last year, November last year, 2 weeks apart. So we have to be aware of that. So we have to be working on that direction, how we can be more sustainable. I'm using all the tobacco stems I'm sending to the farm that are going to the pre-industry, put into the compost, and I give it to the earthworm. So I try to not send anything to the landfill in order to have that. We have projects of efficiency and energy for the factory, compost everything that we have, all the residues that we have, drip irrigation system to have a better use of the water. And so we have to do, and it's going to be more and more important in the future. If we want, we are 5th generation, 156 crops, and I want my kids, my grandsons and granddaughters to still have farming to do so. In my opinion, it's going to be very important. So we have to take it. We haven't feel it that much in order to the quality of the tobacco that I've been learning in some wine producing countries. They have to move to a colder places. We haven't had that yet. That's why we also have a reforestation process. We have a project for 30,000 plants to be reforested nearby the rivers and the mountains, nearby the tobacco fields. So every one of us have to work and address that. We work with the wood suppliers that have management forests in order to buy the wood for the boxes that we make, and it's going to get more and more important. So I'm a true believer that we have, and also if the pessimists are doing too many things, like that could be the chance. I believe it's better for the taste of the tobacco, so that's another benefit that you can have. So everybody wins.
Excellent. And I really say that honestly, the beauty about speaking to you and the great experience that you have is that you make it all sound, your passion is very clear, and you make it, I don't want to say you make it all sound very easy, but obviously because of the richness of your experience, there's been a lot of great wins. There's been, and I love what you said about learning from your experiences, or learning from your mistakes, I should say, which I believe is a huge thing in terms of success. But there must have been, and I don't mean to be pessimistic, on the contrary, there must have been some failures. Can you share with us some that have been, that simply you could not do anything about, or some that has been very pivotal in your learning process and in the direction that you as an individual, or as Plasencia, or even as Nicaragua from a macro point of view took?
Oh, many failures, especially in the growing. As I told you, one of the big failures that we have is when we have the blue mold. You know, it's something that I learned, and I was growing up and seeing it. I remember going with my grandfather to the fields and seeing the fields very beautiful. And then, you know, the next day was completely devastated by blue mold. There was a fungicide that came, and we didn't know, so we used a lot of that fungicide, and the blue mold get resistant because it was a very bad use of that fungicide. And then the blue mold came next year with the more strength, and that fungicide, they didn't work. So that gave us the way that we have to know how to use the chemical control of the tobacco in order to make it work. Different kind of fertilization. For example, the first year that we grow the organic tobacco, the yield was very low. The tobacco was very good because we didn't know how to do it. You know, I make a lot of research about the ways other people were growing another solanaceas, for example, which is the same family of tobacco plant, how they do it organically, tomatoes, potatoes, that kind of stuff. So I learned a lot from them. But the first year was very low yield, and the costs were very, very high. And things that hurts me a lot is when we destroyed curing barns. Beautiful tobacco in the fields. Well, we didn't pay the right attention to the temperature in the curing barn, and those leaves were green like candela. Oh my God! Imagine that. You put a little bit. You put the heater a little bit up, because we don't know. And then we were the first trial with a controlled temperature in the curing barns. Man, that was a complete disaster. Green tobacco. The only thing that you can do is put in fermentation for short filler and that kind of stuff. A lot of problems that we still have is black spots in the tobacco, on the wrapper especially. How you can have that? Again, humidity. We have the humidity. 85% of tobacco plant it's water. When you harvest, you have to take it down to 18. Sometimes we did it like a 25, 28%. We hang it down. In 1 week, that tobacco was with water spots all over. And I'm talking about a lot of pounds, because in 1 week we can make a lot of that tobacco, and that was rotten. That was black. You know, that is something that you learn by mistakes. And we're still trying right now. We did, you know, this is something new that we just implement. We have a heater that we hang out the tobacco, especially for wrapper. I have it here in SLA, just 1 month that have to be installed. Bring that tobacco with the right humidity, maybe a little bit drier, in order to that tobacco not get break, because we have lost a lot of tobacco. Imagine, and that's something that I said, guys, we save that tobacco for everything. In the last steps, we're fucking it up. Sorry for my language, but we are making a lot of mistakes. You hang it out a little bit drier, you put it into the box, and when you open that box, it's all brockage. It breaks my heart every time that I see it. But you know, it's a special detail, and try and error and trying to fix it. But we did it. The first time that we did it, that was the first that this year we've broken a lot of tobacco. Now we get a little bit more humidity, and now we put it into that special room where we control the temperature and the humidity for 28 days. That humidity is a high humidity, 80% humidity, and that goes for the tobacco in Nicaragua. Another great thing is that have a lot of sun. So the tobacco have richness. The essential oils that are produced here are because of the plant protected for the sun rays. And that gives a lot of grease. That oil is grease. Grease with water are spots. So how we can release of that spot? Taking a gentle temperature at the early stages, down with the tobacco have like 30 days old, 20 days, 28 days in that room, we started with the regular pilon. It started very low, and then we can add a little bit more weight, because water, humidity with grass and weight is where you can spoil a lot of tobacco.
Wow,
what's clearly obvious here, I believe. Right, sorry for jumping in.
No. I was actually passing it on to you, but what I wanted to say was, it is unbelievable that to hear from somebody like Nestor, after all these years the family has been in the business, how the learning process continues. And this is what I tell everybody that smokes cigars. One of the beauties, the sheer beauties of tobacco and cigars is you learn so much every day, sometimes twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day. And Reinhard is going to take us to the curing and the fermentation component of it now. And it's unbelievable.
It's amazing, but you have to have a great team of people, that came with ideas. Let's try this, let's try that, and listen to everybody. Be humble. We go with small farmers, and they tell you something that you never thought about it. So you can learn from the tiniest little tobacco grower to the biggest tobacco growers, but you have to come with a humble attitude, that knowing that you don't know everything. And that's going to be the case always, because it's so much what we have that we still have to learn. And every time searching for the best tobacco possible in order to make the best possible cigars with that blend, it's a fun part. The only way that you can do it, I live here in Esteli. I live here with my family, my wife, my kids are in the school here in Esteli. So being hands-on, it's so important in your process, and surrounded with people that give you. I cannot be in the fields and every day, but I have people that is telling me what is going in the fermentation process, talking to the people making the blends, but being present with the people. I love to visit you guys in your countries. I love, because that's, for me, it's where everything came to the final thing. When I see in a humidor with Nicaraguan cigars, with Plasencia cigars, oh my God, it makes me so proud. And the way that I'm being a witness of that process since the beginning, and knowing my name in Nicaragua, Esteli, Jalapa, very famous in the world, it's an amazing thing.
Right, I actually wanted to comment on the very same thing, and it's fascinating how the most iconic, the most experienced people in the industry share that grateful and humble attitude that the more you learn, the more experience you gather, the more you realize that you really do not know anything at all. And what's also fascinating is when you listen to most podcasts or shows and publications out there, when you read all the reviews or follow the banter in the cigar lounge, people are always raving about the blend, about the filler, binder, and wrapper composition, but very rarely do we talk about the things that you are now mentioning, Nestor. And I believe it's so important to realize just how crucially important, how quintessentially important all these aspects are for the final product. And we cannot stress enough that this is really where the magic lies. And just the bandwidth and the complexity of the raw material, that we're barely scratching the surface here during this session even. It's mind-boggling. It really is.
It is amazing. And everything is for you guys. Everything that we're doing is because we want you have the best product out there. That's so important. We always said, we have a bigger meaning, and our bigger meaning is to produce the best that we can produce for you guys' enjoyment. We want that you can improve or have a better moment, like 2 hours. You're going to give you 2 hours of your precious time So we want to fill with the best product. And at the same time, we want to improve the lives of the people that are working on the fields, on the pre-industry, on the factories, that can be sustainable, the people with passion that can make. I always, when we get the #1 cigar of the year, first thing I went to the galera and say thank you to these guys, and everybody was so happy. And I make a video with them. I bring them Miss Nicarágua to have a dinner with the people, send it over here, because it's because of them. It's because of them that we have the quality that we have. Everything that we do is teamwork. We cannot know everything, but if you know something and the other people know something, we're going to know more. And everybody in all of those are willing to learn more. The learning process is going to be faster, but always with passion, knowing that everything that we do is going to be for you guys. And it's so much that we have to do still. It's just the beginning. I feel we've since 1865, but I think it's just the beginning, because I'm eager to learn every day too, how we can improve that, how we can do that. And working, I'm a big fan of nature. So when you ask me for nature, we can talk hours and hours. I was reading about biomimicry. Biomimicry is the science that mimic nature. It's very, very well used in agriculture, in designs, in buildings, in a lot of things, energy use and stuff like that. So I was learning about the hexagon shape, what they said is the perfect shape on nature. It's come from the beehive. And I was learning about bees. I actually have, I'm getting into the honey production right now. So learning more, because I love to learn more about the bees, how they work together and this and that. And that's what we came with the hexagon shaped cigar, like the Almafuerte Sexto Primero and Sexto Segundo. But how we can implement nature knowledge to our benefits. There's so many things that we still have to learn.
It's inspiring and infectious what you share, Nestor. And we have so many questions of all the people who are here with us today, whether it's on YouTube or here at the lounge. So I do apologize to everybody who we potentially not managed to bring on, but let's make sure we get as many questions answered as possible. And Val Bradshaw was waiting for quite a long time to have her question answered. So Val, it's great that you're here with us, and please fire away with your question.
Thank you, Reinhard. It's wonderful to see you. Thank you for putting this all together. Nestor, wonderful to see you again. I've got pictures up, you and I at the barn and you and I at one of the trade shows. You talked about disease. There's also pests. And, pests, you talked a lot about the water and the irrigation. There's a very fine line between not enough water and too much water. With maybe perhaps too much water, you can get pests in the ground, nematodes, that sort of thing. The other thing that when we talk about terroir, it's not just soil, it's also wind. What wind can bring into the tobacco fields. And so I love the topics of disease and pests. Can you tell us a little bit more about the pests in the field and how you go about checking the fields to see what kind of pests might be flying in or be blown in by the wind, and how you discover them? Thank you.
Beautiful. Very great question. We know, and I see you have seen it. We have yellow traps on the field, where we can see, we put it a sticky on the traps, that we can see what kind of pests that are blowing into that, because they are attracted to the yellow color. And we're working, making tests with different colors of the plastic that we put into the field. So that give us a little bit of information what might be into the tobacco field. We also are working with a biological control, where we can see, we call it trichoderma, which is a fungi that we sprayed to the root of the tobacco plant, and they will kill, that will protect like a shield, in order to the black shine fungus don't get into the field. And we're using everything in organic and non-organic tobacco in order to lower the chemical control that we have. Another thing that we're blessed in Esteli, in Jalapa, Condega, there's mostly valleys that are surrounded by mountains. Those mountain chains protects the wind in getting to the valley. They have like a wind shears that can destroy the leaves and make a lot of breakage. We also put the cheesecloth on the corners of some fields when we have a strong winds that can break the leaves. So these are the things that are working in order to avoid using garlic. We use garlic also in order to the smell. They don't like the smell of the pest, so they fly away. So we don't have to spray it. So it's unbelievable. One of the harder pests to control is white fly. With that can give you paratriosa, like another big disease that came like 7-8 years ago. So you have to know the cycle of that pest, and always trying to fight pests in the weakest change of the life cycle, because it's cheaper and it's more efficient. So that's give you in a way that you have to learn and to get immersed in everything that is around your tobacco. So it's beautiful and learning, and that gives you a lot of knowledge about biology of everything in the fields. Thank you for your question.
Ira is here with us as well, and she had 2 brief questions as well.
Yeah, hi, Reinhard. Thanks, and Nestor, good to meet you. Question I have, I've been doing a little bit of research, and as you're talking about fertilization, I remember in that research seeing your CIG fertigation system. So as you're talking, I'm like, I know exactly what he's talking about. I guess one of the things I read about you that, you guys subcontract to other farmers. And so one of my questions is, as we talk about, a lot of these quality controls and a lot of this knowledge and the sharing of information, how do you work with your subcontracted farmers in a way that you empower them to be successful, right? I mean, your setup, from what I've seen, is world-class. Not every one of your farmers could conceivably, maintain the level of quality, the level of knowledge, et cetera, that Plasencia has. What's your role in working with them, and how does that business arrangement work?
Beautiful question. That's very important to us. So we work very close to them. We've been working with some farmers 20 years, so they know the way how we do things, how we take care of the soil, how we take care of the plants. We started give it a lot of training to them. We have a special engineers that go and visit them every day. So they seen the process that they have. They seen how the tobacco is grown. We have an open communication with them. But we make soil analysis to their fields, and we give them the seedlings. We give the variety that we want them to grow, and the quality of the seedlings is very important for a very successful operation. And constant visiting to them, constant talking to them, knowing when they're gonna grow the tobacco, when they harvest the tobacco. We did 2 years ago a project with them that is a soil conservation program, that we teach them how they can be using all the compost that they produce, adding to their soil, using the residues of other crops that they might grow, and putting that back into their soil. So their soil is getting richer and richer every time. So it's a constant communication. It's we treat those fields as it was ours, because it have to be the same level of quality that we produce with them. And they've been doing an amazing work for us. We're very, very blessed that working with an amazing group of people, or farmers, that have been working, and we've been working with father, son, grandson already, that are into that. And I see those passion, and I told to them, I want you guys, Leafy, it's again, how you see the bigger meaning. I want these people have a good profits in their fields, so they don't have to immigrate first to the cities, to the main cities, or they have to go to the United States or whatever country they want. If we take care of people in agriculture for me is the main source of revenue of that growth a company can have, if the farmers are doing great. So it's very important for us that they do well, and everybody have to do well in the change. So thank you for your question.
Ira, many thanks. And Nestor, it's a perfect segue for me to the next critical step in the process, which is the curing barns. And you can probably tell us in a few brief sentences a bit more about the most important aspects of the curing process. But I want to sort of use Ira's question, as I said, as a segue and ask you, at which point do you take over the leaves from the subcontractors? Are they still in charge of the curing process, or is that already within your entirely controlled system?
It's a mix. It's a mix. Some people have, we finance the curing barns, especially the people that have been longer with us. And then we also have curing barns in our premises where we do it the curing process for them, you know, together with them, because we want them to be involved in the process. Because curing process, for me, is one of the most fascinating process in the tobacco, in all the steps of the tobacco. As I said, we have lost in one day a lot of tobacco because of bad decisions on the curing barns. You need temperature, humidity, and air movement. If you have those three, and you know what you're doing, you can have an amazing tobacco. You can have an evenly colored tobacco. You see how the tobacco is hanging in floors and stages, so you can feel that tobacco. You see how the tobacco is growing. That's mostly for filler tobacco. You see how the tobacco is green, and you see the tobacco on the left a little bit of changing the colors. So it's in the process where more chemicals and biological changes are happening. We start with the very green leaf, and we're gonna finish with the brownish color. The process, in order to achieve that, it's fascinating. You go to the fields and you start seeing the yellow, and we call it the rainbow, a little bit of orange, brownish, and it's the smell that goes into that. My early how can I say this, memories in tobacco are on the curing barn. And every time that I go to the curing barn, I remember my grandfather. I was like 3 years old, going to the field with him, and I remember that aroma that I felt at that early age. And I smell it's so sweet, it's rich, it's unbelievable. It's nothing, you know, for a 3-year-old feeling that, you know, that doesn't, anybody can go and listen. It's not ammonia over there, you know, that very strong, well, something that we have in the fermentation process in some stages. So it's so important in the process that we work in some farms, especially in Jalapa, with calfrisa, we call it. It's a system that is 100% controlled temperature, humidity, and air movement, and we do it for about 12 to 15 days in order to have a very even color on that plant, on that leaf. And then we move it to another barn that have the difference in dead and light that I believe the plants needed, you know, in order to have concentrate the flavors and everything. But it's a fascinating process, and if you're not doing right, you can spoil a lot of tobacco in one day with bad decisions. So it's a fascinating process. So please go to curing barns the most that you can when you visit tobacco fields.
In general, Nestor, do you believe that letting nature do the work without human interference as much as possible is the right way to do it? Or especially in, for example, the curing barn process, when you talk about temperature control, controlling of air movement and stuff, is it essential to sort of help nature along the way to come up with the final result that you
have to help nature, Reinhard, because, you know, we hang in the leaves very close one to another. There's so much humidity that are getting out of that. You cannot do it just hang in the tobacco and leave it. It's not possible. You know, that's why we need the human touch in this special process, especially the way that we handle the leaves. There's too much tobacco, too much humidity that you cannot leave it and forget about it. If you have a lot of barns, maybe, you know, that you leave the tobacco over here. But remember, we work in different conditions. The humidity, the relative humidity that we work in Esteli and Jalapa, Ometepe is a little bit different because Ometepe have higher humidity, that you need less work on the barns that you need in any other places, because we're working with a 25-30% humidity, relative humidity content, and we will grow in the tobacco in the dry season when we don't have rains like we have. But this is not something that we don't expect more rain. But you have to work. You have to work it. You need this the human touch, especially in the curing.
Curing is obviously an amazing process, and actually we still have some of those pictures. Did I jump on my thought too fast?
Not at all. Please continue, Rod.
Thank you. I want to talk a bit and move us up the process and touch upon fermentation. I have to admit, and excuse my ignorance on this, but I remember the first time that I went to Nicaragua, and I was walking through the process, and I was a bit confused, and I was like, okay, so let me get this straight. So we start from a fully hydrated leaf that we dry up, and it starts having, just as you said, the rainbow colors and the whole elasticity and the stretching capacity and all of that. And then we decide to go through a process of giving it even more humidity for it to ferment and get to the next stage that we need. Can you shed some light on that? And can you give us, because obviously what I realized is each different place, it's not related to the country, but rather to the cigar house. Each different cigar house has his different uniqueness in how they ferment. And it's so beautiful and so creative. And there's something about the tradition that was passed on from one generation to the other. And I would love you to share your thoughts with us on this.
For sure, for sure. Again, let's go back to humidity content on the leaf, or let's call it moisture on those leaves. As I told you, we have a lot of damaged tobacco, not doing the right thing, but we learn from that. So get in the tobacco, squeeze the tobacco, and then the tobacco start opening it up little, not like this, but very open is when the right humidity to hanging down that tobacco from the curing barn. That tobacco, when it goes to the wrapper, the new process that we add in, put into that control, temperature control, humidity control for 28 days, 30 days, to evenly out even better that humidity. Because when you have too much humidity in that process, you have water spots, black spots. When you have less humidity in that process, you can have broken tobacco. Very, very crucial, the right amount of humidity. Then that tobacco is going to go to a small pilon. You see the previous picture, you see the pilon, how the pilon have to be perfectly made. That you see how the lines are very even. You know, it's a work of art by itself, making the pilon. The gavilla, the leaves of the gavilla have to be very stressed out, you know, that are evenly put. No one leaf is going out of the pilon because that leaf is not going to get fermented. You see some paper that we added in the top because the top of the gavilla is stronger than the leaf itself. So if you have that, it can broke the leaves that are underneath that top of the gavilla. Okay. So small details here and there. We make a small pilon. Why we make a small pilon at the beginning? Because if for any reason, because control the temperature and the humidity in the curing barn is not even, is not perfect. So we want that we have too much humidity plus the humidity control, the temperature is not gonna go like this. It's not gonna increase the temperature very fast. So we want that temperature increase very slowly. We put that tobacco in a lot of tobacco in a very weight on the pilon. It's going to increase fast. So we do it in a small pilon, you know, for about 2 weeks. If we check the temperature, and then we put it together in a bigger pilon. And now we control better the temperature and the humidity that are in that pilon. Then that tobacco stands over there for about 3-4 months without touching it, you know, just checking it. but not adding any more humidity. Then we add humidity to that tobacco. Exactly. Another very special process. We do it by hand. Other people have machines to do that, but I like again the hand in order to touch the humidity that every gavia has, and depends on that humidity is the amount of water that they're gonna add. The way that they take the humidity out is another technique that we teach our people that have been with us for a lot of time and very important people, in order to that humidity get very even. We send that tobacco to selection, where we select the leaves by texture, because in the same primer you can have different texture, depends on the way on the field that you're growing. You have more sun, have a shade, or this and that, or you open a little bit, you increase a little bit on the priming. That is very hard to manage. So that's why we touch every leaf by leaf, and that we're gonna make a pilono seco, pilono viso, and a pilono ligero. Seco tobacco come from the bottom of the plant, viso come from the middle of the plant, ligero come from the top of the plant. Seco tobacco will require less temperature and less humidity than the viso and the ligero. So if you mix it up, you cannot have enough humidity and temperature for the ligero in order to give it to the seco. So you know, very little details in all the process, but humidity content, again, it's so important in this process, and in any tobacco process.
Nestor, I have a brief question when it comes to sorting the tobacco. Most people, as you rightfully mentioned, would consider the sorting happens solely by the primings. So ligero, visus, or seco being dependent on which priming the leaves come from. But is it possible during fermentation or even thereafter to do another selection? And that's obviously what happens, that the pilons are being resorted. But could you then probably adjust and say, look, this was a visus priming, but after fermentation, just in terms of the texture and the thickness that the leaf has after processing, you would much rather grade it as a seco then? Is that a possibility? Or would you say like the priming still defines what the end result in the sorting process will be?
Very good question. The first fermentation, we do it by primings. We don't name it seco, viso, ligero. The first fermentation that pilon is going to be for first priming, and maybe we add first and second priming. That's going to be seco in most part. Then we have the third and fourth priming, and that's going to go to another pilon. And fifth and sixth is going to go to another pilon. That's our first fermentation. We don't call it seco, viso, ligero at the beginning. We're going to call it after we source every leaf by hand. Is when we start call it the name. Is when we start call it the seco, when we start call it the viso, when we start call it the ligero. Then we can turn and we can make a fermentation, especially for seco, fermentation, especially for viso, fermentation especially for ligero. It's more work, it's an extra work, it's more expensive, but the final result is much, much better. That you touch every little leaf, you touch it by hand, and you select it by the texture. And that selection, we also, the broken leaf, we put it aside, you know, that tobacco is gonna go for short filler or whatever. We hope not to have too much of those, but we select it by the texture once we select all the leaves. About 3-4 months, look at that. I'm amazed every time that I see that. Look that evenly color in those leaves. When we are able to produce that, since the field, the only thing that we have to do is open it up all the sugars of the tobacco in the fermentation process. But it breaks my heart every time that I'm seeing spots or brokenness in those leaves that we worked so hard in order to maintain that. Look that beauty, you know, that Nicarágua give it to us. It's amazing.
That's I mean, every time I see this, I'm just pleased, and it's just beautiful. And for everybody that has not been to Nicaragua or has not been to any of the curing barns or the fermentation, or did not go through the process, it's unfortunate that these times you can't do it. But when the good days are back, you really need to make sure to make it to Nicaragua and experience this, because your appreciation to every puff, to that piece of art that's in your hand, totally changes.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Excellent. You mentioned, sorry, please go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
You mentioned something about, well, when you were talking about the fermentation, and I just want to go a bit of an avant-gardist kind of a question. When you were talking about the curing of the fermentation, there's a lot of technology that's being applied to the industry today. In which of those two processes do you believe the technology has been, or do you know the technology has been applied the most? And where do you believe the technology can make a bigger difference?
I'm a big believer to use technology in order to improve your process and the quality. We're making some tests. Well, the first technology that we implemented is the controlled temperature, humidity, and movement in the curing bar, and that's been an amazing step up in the quality of the tobacco. Now we experiment in digital monitoring the temperature on the pilon. We are in the early stages of checking putting a sensor on the pilon that will give us. We're gonna be able to check the temperature and the humidity in different places within the pilon every minute if we want. So we're going to learn what's really happening in the pilon at the early stages, in the middle, at the end of the stages when you add humidity. So it's going to give us a lot of information. On the fields, drip irrigation system, we make some tests with drones, having some drones flying the fields to see, where the tobacco is not growing at the same rate than the other things. There's a lot of companies that are offering that a lot of information, satellites, imaginary to the tobacco, that kind of stuff. So we're always open and try to learn. I love the traditional way. That's why I love this industry so much. I don't want that a machine is gonna make our cigars. Forget about that. That have to be always a handmade product. And the human touch is important. I don't want any machine to select my tobacco. I don't want, that kind of things. It will never change the human touch. But if we can be smart enough to use technology in an advantage, for sure we're gonna open to implement that.
Thank you,
Nestor. We still have billions of questions. It's incredible. However, I just wanted to throw a little excitement out there for all you guys watching. We promised you a little surprise in terms of giveaways. Besides the wonderful boxes of cigars that we have ready for you, at the end of this year's virtual Puro Sabor festival, we will have 2 tickets for very special fans and the people who will be with us the most, attend the most sessions, and ask the smartest questions. During our very last episode, we will raffle 2 tickets for next year's Puro Sabor festival right in Nicaragua. So this is your chance to visit Nestor, to visit all our other wonderful guests, and to firsthand experience everything that we're sharing with you virtually this year. So stay tuned. This is something you definitely do not want to miss. Stay with us for the program, ask smart questions, and during the last episode, we'll be raffling away those 2 tickets for the next Puro Sabor festival, happening in Nicaragua next year. So that's just for a little extra flair, fairy dust, and excitement. And we'll jump right over to David Wayne, our dear brother, who he was waiting for the longest time. Brother, please fire away, and thanks for tuning in, as always.
Thank you. I'm still fairly new to learning about the cigar industry. I'm still just a casual cigar smoker, but I'm so happy people like Reinhard and Carl, all these guys who do these Zoom meetings where I have a chance to learn. I do have a few questions. Let's see, let me get back on my phone, see if I can pick them up. Come on. Well, I guess first question I have, do you have specific rollers to roll your cigars, or do you like people that you trust, or do you like subcontract them?
Thank you, David. I'm also new in the tobacco learning, so we're in the same page, my friend. So Plasencia cigars are made by the best rollers and pointers that we have over here. They come with extra training. I like to take them to the fields and to the fermentation process where they can learn more, and they know what they're doing, and we don't subcontract any production. We make it ourselves 100%. And that's going to be the case all the time, because I want to have these guys, these ladies, and especially girls that are doing an amazing job with those wrappers, that the way that they open it up and take the shiny out of the leaves, and I want to see them every day. So I want to have them close, and that's going to be the case every time.
And that's one thing I've noticed, because I'm trying to learn as much as I can. So I follow like the Iroa cigars, and majority of their rollers are women, and I love it. I love seeing sisters that leave work in the industry. People think that it's just men, but I love the fact that women are major benefactor to the cigar industry.
I love that. I love that also. We do have daycare centers here in the factory where we take care of their children. So they are concentrated in the best quality possible, while we take care with the quality education for their daughters and sons. And I want those kids to be lawyers, doctors, entrepreneurs, and we always find people to work with us. So that's the way that we are give something back to them, giving the best education possible at the early stages.
And that's amazing. My wife, she started smoking cigars, and that's one thing I told her, is like, you don't understand that. See, the passion I see in you is one reason why I want to dive more into it. My wife works with special needs children. I was like, you don't realize people in the cigar industry, they give back. They give back to different countries, and they try to help people. I was telling a story about the CFCF, how they help kids become lawyers and doctors and try to build a better life for them. But moving on, another question I have is, what do you consider a organic versus non-organic premium tobacco?
David, you're a lucky guy. If your wife enjoys cigars, so you're a lucky guy. I'm a very lucky guy. I'm a very lucky guy also. Again, I'm in love with organic agriculture, with giving back to the soil. It's you have to take, you have to give, you have to give, you have to give in order to have the best. I'm in love. I'm in love with organic growing tobacco, and the way that we grow the conventional. We use a lot of organic techniques that we have learned, and we implemented it also in the conventional tobacco. But that's organically grown. That's my baby. It was when I started my first project after university, and I still have to learn too much about that. And I'm learning too much about the microorganism that lives on the soil. There's so much information and so much to learn in just that field, it's unbelievable the amount of information that are out there. And I see more and more people get into that, and different crops, not just in tobacco, so which is nice.
Right. And the good thing is, people like you, or even the Fuente, y'all have generations of learning and understanding. I'm coming in just fresh. I mean, I'm 2 years of understanding premium cigars. Less than 2 years actually, of trying to understand premium cigars. And I told our brother Andy Scherfman, I said, one of my biggest dreams is first factory tour I want to go to is Plasencia, the second one Fuente, because I want to learn these 300 hands on who's touching them, what jobs, what. I want to learn from start to finish. I want to try to learn as much as possible, because I'm like right now I'm smoking a boutique cigar from a guy who rolls them here in Houston, and I appreciate a cigar. It doesn't matter whether it's boutique, Gurkha, Fuente, Plasencia, Padron. Doesn't matter. I appreciate them because of how much work has been put into it and how much love and care that takes to manufacture the cigar.
Amazing people in this industry. It's going to be a pleasure having you here, and visit a lot of other manufacturers over here, because they're doing an amazing job as well. That's why it's the secret of the Nicaraguan success, that most of the manufacturers and growers are doing the best. So that's beautiful. So it's going to be a pleasure having you, David.
And I have two more questions, and I'm done.
David, choose your best one, because we have so many people piling up.
I'm just trying to blow. Yeah, I just want to blow through them. Do you intend to extend your cigar lines? Because the Alma Fuerte so far, hands down, is my favorite. The Hexagon is my favorite, but do you intend to extend to make more?
Oh yeah, for sure. We're just in the beginning stages, my friend. So there's a lot of things coming up in the near future.
Now, very last question, because I've been in an argument with this. I hear that the tobacco Plasencia makes covers about 70% of the manufacturers who roll their cigars. But people tell me it's 50, people tell me it's 80. Do you have a rough estimate of how much tobacco is supplied through Plasencia?
Oof. I don't know exact number, but I know thanks the people are trusting our tobacco and our cigars. We have the blessing to work with beautiful people in this industry. So we are blessed that the people trust our tobacco and trust our cigars. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Nestor. It's been a great pleasure, and this is actually one of my biggest dreams to talk to you.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much.
I told Reinhard last week, I said, this is the guy who I want to talk to. I want to learn.
David, you made it happen. Many thanks for your question, and over to our dear friend Reinhard.
Hello, everybody. Nestor, when I followed the Plasencia tour during the Puro Sabor 2020 edition in your beautiful Esteli factory, you proudly told us about your new quality manual. Can you elaborate on this again?
For sure. Thank you for that question. That's something that I feel very proud of my team. We do invest a lot in trainings and to give them how all can become better human beings. So we invest a lot of time and effort and resources in order to give people the tools in order to they improve in life. We create these seminars. They call the Pacific Institute, where we call them and how you can achieve everything that you have in your mind and this and that. And they came with the idea to have a quality control where we now take the bad cigars out of the rollers and bunchers. Instead of taking that cigar bad, we teach the bunchers and roller how to make a good cigar. How that cigar, it needs a better work on the head of the tobacco. How that cigar is not drawing properly. How you can take some leaf that you put it extra, how you can do that, and have it a great relationship with the quality control assistant to the people who make the cigars. The official of the quality control is their mission is to train the people to make great cigars, not just to reject bad cigars. Reject bad cigars, anybody can do it. Teach how to make a good cigar. It's something that requires skill, time, and passion. So we create that manual of defects that the cigar can has, because some people have, that they working with people, it's not always easy. So you have the quality officials take me the cigar because they don't like me. That cigar, they're not teaching me, or they have, we have an issue outside the factory. So we said, we want to get the subjectiveness away. We want to have very objective way to do the quality control. So we put pictures of all the defects that the tobacco can has. If one of the bunchers or roller are not happy with the decision, we show them the cigar, and if that mistake is in the manual, they say, okay, you guys were right, so I have to fix it and I have to work it in order to have a transparent and an open communication. in the people.
Excellent.
Thanks a lot, Nestor.
Thank you.
Moving to another question, and we have our ambassador at large. He's been called a lot of interesting names and adjectives on this program: the best dressed, the most amazing hair, and we keep on counting them. I think we reached 5 or 6 so far. Ricardo, take it away. It's all yours.
Thank you so much. You always flatter me. You're too nice. However, I do have to say, Dorte was here before me, so I'm not sure if we can. Perhaps I don't want to skip the queue. I feel really bad to do that. I know his virtual hand has been standing longer than mine, so I'm not sure if I don't want to cut the flow, but maybe Dort had a question. If you don't mind him going first, and then I'll go after him, if that's okay with you.
Please.
He says, I guess I picked up the British way. You never jump the queue. It's not okay.
Dort, the floor is yours, my
friend.
friend.
Thank you very much. I can see that you are an ambassador to your country at great. So thank you very much. It's a great honor to listen and to watch Senor Plasencia. I have one question regarding actually the first part of this session regarding the composites and fertilization. Is there any truth? I assume that it is, by the things that I've read and heard, that if you put, I don't know, like some fertilization, like coffee beans or cocoa beans or anything like that mix that you put in the soil, is there any connection? And I say again, I suppose there is, to all those flavors that we later sense in the cigar, you know, like some nuances of coffee, cocoa, and etc. Thank you very much again.
Good question. Thank you for your comments. You know, I think it's gonna work, but you need to have a lot of that organic material in order to change the flavor of the terroir. I think it requires a lot of organic material. I'm in love with all organic material come from any residues, corn residue, beans residues, coffee residues, cacao residues, but I like to give it a process before I add it to the soil. We put it in the compost processes where we manage the relationship carbon and nitrogen and the water. So we put it over there to it's another kind of fermentation that we use, and that we can use it at both. We use it as a enmienda organic. I don't know how to say that in English. That you can use it exactly to the field. But what we're doing the most is giving to the earthworm. To the earthworm can have a better raw materials in order to have a better final organic fertilizer at the end. So I like to work as nature with diversity. The different kind of organic material that I feed the worms with, the better organic fertilizer they're gonna give it to us. But I think it might work, you know. But I'm a big fan of any kind of organic material. Feeding the microbes on the field.
Thank you very much again.
My pleasure. Thank you for your question.
Okay, Ricardo, you're on. Thank you, Dorde.
Thank you, Ray. Néstor, bueno, un placer de saludarte, como siempre. Un gusto.
Igualmente, mi amigo, un gran placer.
Un verdadero honor y un verdadero placer. And it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much, Reinhard, and thank you so much, Ray. It's amazing what you're doing here with the Puro Sabor virtual edition. This shows the pioneering ability of our people in Nicaragua. Nestor, the first few words that came out of your mouth really struck me, really. And I've been taking a couple of notes, and I have a couple of quick remarks to make on some of the amazing things you said and what I've learned, at least some of the key takeaways for me. And then I have a question that I wanted to ask you. But the first thing you said is about learning the tobacco language. And that's such a deep thing to say. And it's something that I know you family have been learning. You think you've been writing some of these language as we go along, but that's the beauty of it, that it will always keep on going and always keep on crafting. And it is those artists that craft the work of arts through the language that you have. And I have to say, I know very few people in the whole world that have that domain of this language as you do and as your family do. And that's something that I have the greatest respect, and it's one of the key reasons to the place where Nicaragua is right now in terms of the pinnacle of being the cigar, let's say what it is, the cigar king country in the world right now. Let's not be ashamed about it. That's something else Nicaraguans seem to be sometimes we have a hard time, and humility is very important. And that's another thing I wanted to highlight, how humble and how much passion you have. It's incredibly infectious. And that's a beautiful thing that as a Nicaraguan is what I love when I hear you speak, when I hear you come here, when I hear your colleagues and co-Nicaraguans coming in. That's what we should be uniting on. That's what really matters. Everything else is secondary. This love for the country is what really, really touches my heart, and I love. In one of the reasons that I've seen this, and you mentioned that, and I love again that you recognize that one of the main reasons why we're doing so well is that concentration of knowledge from all over the world. May have been originated in Cuba, then you're born in Nicaragua, and then from the United States, and it's from here. So I think the concentration of knowledge, not only at this stage of what we're discussing today, but everything else that goes in the supply chain, in the boxes, in the manufacturing, in the artistry, all these different elements. So we're very blessed in the way things have aligned to have that level of talent, sort of competing, but learning from each other. I think that's one of the reasons. Love your comment on the water of our country. You know, we are the land of lakes, water, and volcanoes. That's what we're all about. So love, I'm smoking and enjoying, and I smoke too fast sometimes, your alma fuerte. So you have your alma de fuego, you have your alma del campo. So it sounds like alma del agua sooner than later, but one dig too much deeper on that. But sounds like that's a perfect thing to come in and see what you do with the water is phenomenal. And lastly, I mean, in terms of comment, is the one you made that is a beautiful metaphor into what makes our tobacco so amazing and our whole industry so amazing. And you having that mower over the plants kind of forging their character. And that's what I think many of our countries here, but in particular, I would say our country has gone through a lot of hardship, and it's really forged that Nicaraguan spirit and that strength of character. Same with Cuba, the same with many other countries, but in particular the ones in our industry. And that's an amazing idea, thinking of how the seedlings have to be forged. Forget the air conditioning and the ice cream. Let's get a little bit of toughness in you. And I love that. Ultimately, the one other thing you said that I think is incredibly important for us to take note is the sustainability of the industry. Something I was speaking to some of the other cigar makers not long ago. And, you know, we try to think of how are we going to be able to maintain our workforce, right? Because people, as we evolve, they want better jobs. And we have millions of cigars to make and to sell. So how do we keep people interested, right? And it sounds like by the way you're mixing, in many ways, a level of smart technology without taking away the human aspect, that to me sounds like one of the key strategies and policies which need to think about, and how then employ those that go to university and be able to learn technologies that is not only about the beauty of the art of the hand, but also the knowledge and the technologies that come about. So that's really, really important, my friend. I have to say that's incredibly powerful. And my question, and this is something that I at some point I must have talked to Juan Martinez about, but love to know where we are and your thoughts about the denomination of origin of tobacco. We've spoke about what the hybrids you've come up with, some of them coming from origins from Cuba, and then other ones from Connecticut and so on. But these wonderful creations of your art, where are we now, as far as you know, in terms of the process of eventually being able to have denomination of origins that are protected? Say, if we call it a hybrid Nestor, it can only be from the Valley of Jalapa, for example. So that kind of process, I'm a little bit curious. I'm completely ignorant. And as you know, I'm always trying to learn. I have to say, today I've learned so much. So I'm really, really grateful, but curious to know where we are in that process. Nestor, thank you.
Thank you for those words, for those comments, Ricardo, and thank you for being an ambassador of Nicaraguan cigars in the UK and mostly in Europe. The process of the denomination of origin, we're working with the Nicaraguan Tobacco Chamber. They're amazing, an amazing job. Claudio and the team is doing an amazing job doing that. We have, as you know, a lot of challenges that are put you in another kind of work. Last week we have the annual meetings with the chamber, and we touch that subject. That is something that we want, especially managing the quality that we all want to be proud of. We have done an amazing job, and all the members of the chamber, but with the volume, you can have problems with the lack of quality. And that's something that newcomers that they don't understand, that they don't have to have the bad times, you know, they're just seeing that there's a good market to get into that. You know, we have the boom, we talk about this, we have the boom in the 90s, that the boom was over because of lack of quality. That we are in a small boom, we call it, because there's a lot of demand of Nicaraguan cigars in the market right now. So we have to be very, very careful of not rushes any process of doing the right thing in order to maintain the quality that we have. But we don't control anybody that is not member of the chamber. So one of the things that we want to work, that we're going to start to work as a Nicaragua, is to have a quality certification of origin, that all the people that are on the chamber, that we know they're doing the right processes, whatever sauce they use, whatever process they use, we know they're doing their best. We have to go with that seal, that we guarantee that those cigars that are coming without seal, they're doing the most in order to maintain the quality. People that not going into that and they're not doing the right thing, people will not say this has come from Nicaragua. This come from other factories in Nicaragua, new people, you know, people that don't know what they're doing, or they want to rush things and everything. I hope that don't happen, but we need to talk to the newcomers and stuff like that in order to avoid that, because there's a lot of things in place. We want Nicaragua to maintain a hard gain name of quality in this industry. So we're going to work hard in order to maintain that. And as our job, and as the job of all the members that I have done, in my opinion, an amazing job. The amount of quality cigars that are coming out of Nicaragua to the market is unbelievable right now. So everybody's doing their best, and everybody have the love of Nicaragua. You know, even though people have come over here, but I know that the love that they have for Nicaragua, and I'm truly honored to see that, because you know it's my country, and I love to see that with my fellow colleagues.
Thank you, Nestor. And that's incredibly important. So look forward to that process. And that showcases, I think, of all the great products that we produce in Nicaragua and of all the organizations and chambers, hats off to the tobacco chamber. I think historically, what you've accomplished and you keep accomplishing, it's a model, I think, in many ways, but some of the other great products that we have, like our coffee and our sugar and so on. So congratulations, and look forward to that. Thank you so much. And it's always great pleasure to see you, Nestor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. And next time you're in Nicaragua, please visit us.
Oh, you know I will, for sure. The same you, when you come to London, please. We saw you last time you came, so you need to hopefully soon happen again.
Definitely, count on that.
Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you so much. Nestor, obviously the 90s, there was a certain kind of pressure on the Nicaraguan cigar industry. And unfortunately, a direction was decided upon that was not necessarily the right direction to take in terms of the quality production. You mentioned now something about a sort of, and I'm not trying to compare it with any negative connotations, think of it as a cigar ISO quality certification as far as the Nicaraguan companies is concerned, which I think is brilliant. Is the Nicaraguan cigar industry today, with the boom that has resulted from the COVID pandemic, under stress? Do you, as Plasencia, feel that you're under stress for production and now having to schedule deliveries 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, and you're looking at it and the weeks are increasing? Or do you believe that definitely the lesson has been learned, and if it means more time, so be it, so long as we don't jeopardize or impact the quality?
An amazing question, and for sure it's under stress. It's under stress on the orders that we're receiving. There's a lot of people wanting our cigars, and I want it quicker and everything, but we learn the lesson, and we talk, we're not gonna send anything that is not ready. That is something that is there's not talking about that. You want the cigars, so you have to wait in order to. We would love to have it ready, but it's not the case. So it needs to have the right time, the right processes, the right aging on the bales, the right aging on the cigars, because we're talking about quality. We're talking about Nicaragua. We're talking about our name. We're talking about the quality of the people, of the brands that we make for our colleagues. So I think most of the people have learned the lesson, and most of the people are taking the time in order to not send anything that is not ready to the market. But there's also it's a lot of pressure, man. I receive phone calls every day. Where are my cigars? Your cigars are in the agent room, man, waiting to be ready. So, and I think, and people understand that. The people understand that in order for them, especially shop owners, that they understand that the main goal of that is have a quality cigars in their customers' hand. So I think people understand that. We have to work hard. We have to increase our production. So we are adding new people. We're training a lot of people. That's a lot of investment. So, but it's the way that it is. So you have to work having trained people that goes and managing other facilities, but nothing really crazy. We want to the people have the time to rest. I heard that other countries, they're working Saturdays and Sundays. So I think there's a lot of stress for the people. So we like to take it easier, and maybe we work a little bit extra hours on Saturday, just in the morning, and then the people have to rest and do their stuff. But I think most of us learned the lesson what happened in the 90s. And we are here for quality, and quality will take us for the long term. It's the only thing that will take us for the long term. That might be a small boom that will disappear, because we've been in this industry for many years. So we saw the demands go like this and go like this, like this, like this. So we want a steady growth is better.
That's very comforting, and definitely, as usual, very reassuring. Reinhard, can I take one fast question before I thank you, sir? Mr. Kamal, Mustafa Kamal, would you like to give us your question? Your hand has been up there for a while.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I mean, thank you once again to everybody who contribute these gatherings, because, I mean, isn't it amazing? Me asking question all the way from Turkey to Nicaragua to one of the most important masters of cigar industry. It's amazing opportunity. Thank you very much. And my question is related to your words. You're very oftenly mentioning your training stuff. Nicaraguan cigar industry is growing very fast, and even though you're trying to take it slow, not to face another boom again, but I just wonder your staff policy and training a young cadet or a young apprentice. How long does it take? Because I mean, is it from father to son? I mean, for you, it's a family tradition, of course, from father to son. But in the galera, is it master to candidate? And how long does it take? For instance, a master roller, how long does it take to train or to come to that level from a new beginner to a master roller? Because really, I mean, workforce for the most important handcrafted, unique product, so cigar, human workforce is important, and more masters must be one of the important issues for you. Yeah. So how do you solve that, and how long does it take? That's my question.
Very nice question. For example, we're opening a new facility in Ocotal. Ocotal is a small town that is in the northern part of Esteli, very close to the Honduran border. We start from scratch. We started with people that not experienced in tobacco whatsoever, but there was a lot of needle work in that city. That's why we moved. We instead of opening in Esteli, we opened it in Ocotal. So we supplied decent jobs to that city as well. We had another factory before. We need to open it and increase the production over there. What we do, We send a very good staff over here that has been helping us also to train the people. And we have a better managed system. So we are very close to them. They start standing just to seeing how the cigars are made. We start with the low-end cigars like medium filler, sandwich, that kind of products, in order to they understand to work with the leaves. They understand to work with the wrappers and stuff like that. And in order to an apprentice to have like a decent production that could be like 200, 250 cigars a day, it requires like 3 to 4 months. If you manage them very closely, if you work with them, if you train to them, some people will see, 1 week after another week, if they make some improvements, we talk to them, we see in them if they really like it, if they're really into that, because some people, not everybody likes to be a roller or bunchers, or other people have the natural skill. So people with natural skill, in 3 months, they're making like a 300 cigars. So I say, wow, I'm impressed, but they work and they want to have it. And we always started with the low end, like a sandwich or kind of cigars. And then they move over to the more premium cigars. And then to get into the Plasencia, they need a lot of training before to get into our cigars.
Nestor, I
we
believe
do have people that be working with us for many years.
I think one thing that's for sure, whether it's the tobacco or the people, what it all comes down to, and what is the quintessential factor in all this, is certainly the time, right? And you just can't rush time. And to be honest, we have experienced the very same with our session today, because as always, we're running terribly over time. We just entirely threw off any schedule or whatever we had. But I believe, Nestor, we could go on for hours, for days, and continue this wonderful conversation. We, of course, want to be respectful of your time and of the precious time of all our viewers, who, thank God, are still very engaged, and there's more questions coming in. But before we wrap things off, first of all, I have to say a massive thank you to everybody who was tuning in, and an even bigger thank you to you, Nestor Andres, for sharing everything that you presented us with today. It's been an exceptional learning episode, and of course, it was all underlined by your passion and by your commitment to this most wonderful industry there is in the world. And it's just mesmerizing to hear all those stories and share them with the people out there. So for all of you watching, if you want to have more of that, we'll be back in 2 weeks from today with the 4th episode of the virtual Puro Sabor. You can check out all the updates and the news on the official website, that is lightemupworld.com/Puro Sabor 2021. And on there, we will also keep you posted on the amazing raffles that we told you about. So keep in mind boxes of Nicaraguan cigars and our 2 top prizes, the 2 tickets for the next physical live Puro Sabor in 2022 will be waiting for you at the end of these episodes. Nestor, before we go, I would love to sort of go back to the very beginning with the final question, and let's go back and put our hands into the soil of Nicaragua and take a glimpse into the future. When all is said and done, when the tobacco plant has been primed and the leaves are graciously slumbering somewhere in the curing barns or in the pilones, what's happening, and what would be the most important and sustainable process for the soil to rejuvenate, come back to life? And how can you make sure that for the next year coming, the soil will be perfectly ready again to receive those little plants of tobacco to produce the most magnificent leaves later on?
Thank you. I love that subject, and there's so many things to learn, but the main thing is to add something back to the soil. When you're not in the tobacco season, grow other kind of crops. In order to those crops, you can incorporate it back into that field, because that's the easiest way to have organic material. throw corn, throw bean, throw different kind of. We're trying with the sunflowers. We're trying with a lot of stuff in order to add organic material back to the soil. Works hard in order to not have erosion for the wind, for the rain. Try to have your soil covered in order to maintain that humidity, in order to maintain those richness that we have. And that's I think that I want to see more and more often. I'm happy because I'm seeing it. But there's a lot of work that we have to do in order to maintain our resource, our precious resource, which is Nicaraguan soil and Nicaraguan terroir. And we're working to count on that we're going to work in order to maintain the quality, to improve the quality, and that we're working with a lot of people in the industry, in the Nicaraguan Tobacco Chamber, of making sure that we still produce the best tobacco in the world, and we are just in the beginning. So I want to also take the opportunity to thank all of you to spend your time with us, to listen to what the little thing that we have to say about Nicaragua, about our passion, about this beautiful industry that I truly believe it makes our life better during special crazy times in the world, that we can have a nice companion by ourselves, by our people that we love, by strangers, or whatever you want to enjoy it. Keep enjoying cigars, keep enjoying life, keep together, keep close to your people, to your family. Keep listening to these seminars that are amazing, with amazing people. And I hope to see you guys soon, sooner than later. And I hope that 2022, we see your face to face, and we can go and get our hands dirty in a beautiful Nicaraguan soil. Thank you very much to all of you.
What a perfect way to end the session. Big thanks to our wonderful host, Reinhard, over in Dubai.
Thank you, sir.
The biggest thanks to you for everything that you shared with us. It's been an epic episode, and certainly one that people will be rewatching to just extract all that beautiful knowledge. And it was just a magnificent piece of tobacco history that you presented us with. So thank you yet again. And to all of you, you have a fantastic rest of the day, most successful week. Stay smoky and light them up. We'll see you again here in 2 weeks' time. All the very best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Un abrazo desde Nicaragua.
Un abrazo desde Canarias.